Willkommen to the trainer closet where trainer secrets are revealed and tested. Individual results may vary depending on microbiome and genome and whatever else you do. Now here's Mike, he has his cup. Chelsea's running, Orest is here. Today we're going to talk about 7 movements created by yours truly, Mike.
The 7 movements of the human body. Movement is my favorite thing. It's what I studied in college. It's what I practice every single day.
All right, now go on.
It's what I teach people. It's
Go
how I
on.
help people. So today, 7 movements. So every single thing that your body does, every single thing, falls into these 7 categories.
Can be traced back to this.
Squat, hinge, push, pull, twist, brace, and step. That's 7. 4 fingers on one and 3 on the other. Squat, hinge, push, pull, brace, twist, step. So out of those 7 movements, there's 1 million, 10 million, 100 million exercises. But the exercises are the techniques that you use to accomplish these movements, and the movement itself is the concept. And you can know 1,000 techniques and not understand a single concept. But if you understand one concept, you can understand 1,000 techniques.
As I said before already, I like this whole thing about like I learn the details and then I can spread out with that. And you know, I never like to learn anything by heart. I like to figure it out by myself, so to speak. And that's kind of what you're trying to say.
Yep.
The only thing that I kind of want to throw in there is like, if you had to play a computer game, is it better to know the code or to just, you know, practice playing?
A cheat code will definitely
No,
help
it's not
you
a cheat code. It's just
get
like
to the finals
It's not-
quicker, but you won't get better at all the stuff
it's
in
not
between.
a cheat code. It's just like, how do I go about life, so to speak? Am I trying to crack the code, or am I just living?
Well, there also is an argument that you're not gonna know the code unless you understand the concept. Because you're saying the code is the technique, right?
Well, it's all of it. It's like, you know, it's like basically the code is kind of how we are built up, like the DNA. I mean, all of it. And can I crack that, or should I just be able to, you know, live? And now that brings me to the first question: what do you use your 7 moves for? Is there a specific usage that you're using for? Are you going to tell your clients, I want you to twist more, and so on and so forth, or what is the purpose for this?
When I first start working with a new client, I have them do all 7 of these moves without any resistance, and sometimes without gravity, depending on the level of
There's always
experience.
gravity, but yeah.
There's always gravity, but when I say without gravity, I mean you're not standing upright, so you don't have your structural muscles fighting gravity. You can lay on the ground, you can sit, you can lay on a bench. So how do I use these 7 moves? I use these 7 moves that when I first start working with a new client, I have them do all 7 moves without any resistance. And I watch where the weaknesses are, and I watch what moves you're good at, and I watch what moves you're not good at, and I figure out the best way to train you so that you can master all 7 of these moves. And ideally, when you master all 7 moves, then you can start adding resistance to the moves, and that's when you start getting stronger. But until you have mastered the 7 moves, you shouldn't really add resistance to each individual move until you master that move.
I mean, I think my concept is kind of exactly the same, similar. I just kind of have the opposite tendency. I just simplify it a little bit. I just say, okay, there's the push and the pull and the walk. And that kind of gives me basically everything. Now, within your distinction, just so that we also can distinguish between that for us, is like the brace versus the twist. Where do you see the big difference?
It's the same muscle groups, but it's a different movement, so it's a different skill. Let's call each movement a skill.
Skill is skill, because it is not necessarily a movement. A brace is an isometric contraction almost. No, it's not almost. It is.
Well, to the blind eye, you may think that a brace, nothing's moving, but there is like a little centimeter of movement when your rib cage contracts and your abdominals contract around your rib cage to brace your rib cage. So it's a little tiny bit of movement, but you're right. It's not really like a movement.
Well, but in that specific thing though, like, you know, like then you would have to say like breathing is moving. So like you always
breathing is a skill.
So then but I mean
breathing is a skill, and
Absolutely.
the bracing mechanism that I'm talking about are the same diaphragmatic muscles that you use in breathing. So your question was the twist and the brace. Similar muscle groups, but a different skill. It's a different signal that your brain sends to your motor unit to do either one.
As I said, like I would say that one is an isometric thing because again, bracing supposedly is in order for us to stabilize the spine and make that not move. Like it's not the fulcrum of the movement. It's just kind of like basically becomes the lever.
Yep. And I'm happy you said that because in a lot of different exercises, you combine multiple of these movements, and bracing is a movement that is combined. It's put into every exercise. You know, so it's not so cut and dry that all 7 of these movements have to be separate. A lot of them work together. You know, when you're squatting, you should be bracing. And if you're doing like, you know, a squat and pull, then you're squatting and pulling at the same time. But I have a question for you. So you said you only have 3 bodily movements: walking, push, and pull. Then where does the squat fit into walking? Where does the hinge fit into walking?
Well, I mean, like basically, if you look at the joints that are in walking, using the same muscles grouped up in parentheses, relatively functional way, the same way as they would in squatting, right? I mean, I know that the squat and the walk is a slight difference because, you know, again, it's kind of almost like the basic thing is like we do something bilaterally or unilaterally, right? So, but the same muscle groups are kind of firing together in those 2 things. The same is true with the hinge too. I mean, and there's, as you said, like everything, and for me, basically, I just try to, you know, simplify it for me and making sure that through my planning for training workouts that I kind of hit all of those.
Yep.
Right, and that's kind of my thing based on I want everybody to do some type of a walking help, so to speak, functional walking help.
Because we all need to walk.
Exactly. It's like that's section number 1. Like I'm totally lower body dominant, and then because you know we can, even with weak muscles like Mike has, he can actually bring up this cup and drink, and most people will be able to do that for a long period of time. And walking is where, you know, balance of the lower you know, limbs is more where things start to get a little awry. And so like I focus on that, and then push and pull would be just, you know, and I can do push and pull like unilaterally, and I don't mean that just both at the same time. So
I agree with you that push and pull pretty much covers everything that your upper body can do, but I don't agree that walking covers everything that your lower body can do. Because if you teach somebody how to walk, yes, it's a lot of the same things that you do in a squat and hinge, but you're not helping a client master the ability to use your ankles, knees, and hips at the same time while lowering your center of gravity and then coming back out of it, or using your hips to hinge your spine around your pelvis.
Obviously, there's degrees thereof. Yeah, absolutely. But like, you know, I would say I do a squat with my client to improve their walking.
Okay. So yes, so your categories are a little bit broader, and it fits into it.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah. No, I mean, I kind of, as I said, like for me, it's like more like I simplify it more. So like I just want to make sure, okay, I got that covered and that covered and that covered, versus like you actually kind of more specify exactly, and then therefore you're using that concept to focus in on one thing that is weak, and then really hone it until they're really good at it.
I like to break it all down into simplicity and specifics.
Yeah.
Simplicity, specificity, and then
God.
I'm killing it. And then
no, you're definitely killing it. And
my vocab's through the roof. So
absolutely,
I like to break it down into simple and specific moves, and then once you master the simple and specific moves, you can tie a lot of those moves together for more dynamic movement.
Right, and for me, basically the same is true. The only thing that I would see different is like I think everything is connected, and so therefore mostly the best thing to do is everything similar to what we talked about in Pilates. That's the best thing about Pilates, like, you know, you're using all the things in one, and I don't have to focus on specifying. And I do believe also, like, I cannot tell where the pathology comes from, and therefore if I work on the whole channel, I will impact it. If I just say, okay, I kind of think it is the shoulder that starts it all, and I start working on, I just might miss that it's actually starting the hip, and I have no x-ray vision on me that I can say that's the hip.
Yep. Well, what of my 7 movements is going first in your old age?
What is going first would probably be fuck you.
Well, we just went from a G-rated show to an R-rated show. Thanks for listening.
In one word.
See you next week. The cat's out of the bag and the secrets are out of the closet. And if you have any questions, send us your questions. See ya.